And do not forget to write the title and the description.
Okay, it's there now.
Okay.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to my meeting. We are going to have a wonderful time, I hope. This event is being made by ALBA Social Movements Canada, Ottawa Chapter, and Siglo XXI, Re-Pensando, Bolivia. We are welcome everybody, and we're going to start with asking everybody to some details about the meeting tonight. One of the things is that the guests are going to speak first, and at the end we're going to allow people to ask questions or comments, and no more than 2 minutes, please, because tonight we have many different important people. And it's going to be English, Spanish. We are going to do in both languages. Luis, he said Luis Alba, he can say he can summarize sometime, but I don't think he will be able to do the whole thing. But
can you hear me well now?
Okay, yeah, thank you.
I don't see your showing up in Facebook, Mari Carmen. So I'm gonna, in which page of ALBA are you broadcasting this? Because I don't see that. I don't see.
But it is here. I will tell you in a minute.
Oh, it's ALBA in the other page. Let me check here.
Mari Carmen, ¿qué tienes planificado de duración de esto? Porque tengo que mandar un mensaje, me llegó algo.
Okay, Luis, many of the people here speak Spanish. And
Okay.
some is the question, somebody we can summarize, but I don't think we can have a full translation.
No, that's fine. But I'm just asking you, what are you planning in terms of time? How long is the meeting?
For about 1 hour.
An hour?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay, Gustavo, I see it's alive, but I don't know where because I had 3.
I'm checking your page in ALBA Social Movements, Ottawa, and I don't see it showing up. Someone can go to the page, Facebook page, to check if it is showing up.
I look for Mari Carmen. It's in Mari Carmen, maybe.
Because it's live on Facebook. It says that it's live on Facebook. Probably it's in Mari Carmen, your page, huh?
Mm-hmm. Okay, I think I have to start.
Yeah, you have, yeah.
Okay, we're going to start now, Gustavo.
Well, I don't see where it is showing up.
Okay. Long live the ongoing and key the role of the woman struggle for right and for the democracy in the Americas. On the occasion of March 8, International Women's Day, we would like to pay homage to all the women in the front rank of the fight for the peace, freedom, and democracy and empowerment. In the struggle for humanizes the natural and the social environments, women stand second to none. It is my duty to point out I am speaking from unceded Algonquin land, territory, This acknowledgement is not in a simple formality, but reflects of the pressing need to the end of the historical injustice by the colonial Anglo-Canadian states against the First Nations. On the basis of the political renewal, basis on the nation-to-nation relations, in many ongoing struggle by waving in the defense of the heritage, treating in human rights of the First Nation. Women are in the front line for. They are playing a leading role as land defender and defender of the protectors of the, and spoken for the communities. Thank you for being here tonight, and we are going to welcome Adriana. She is from the Cuban Embassy. She's in charge of the press. We're going to speak in Spanish. Vamos a darle la bienvenida a la compañera Ariana Quintana de la Embajada de Cuba. Ella es la encargada de prensa. Adriana, ¿estás ahí? Ariana? Okay. This event has been made possible because of ALBA Social Movement, Ottawa Chapter, and Siglo XXI, Re-Pensando Bolivia. We are working everybody. Gustavo Saavedra will speak a little bit about Re-Pensando Bolivia. Siglo XXI, Re-Pensando Bolivia. Gustavo?
Yes, thank you very much. So today we're all together here trying to remember or trying to make an homage, if you want, to women that have been in the struggle constantly. So that's why this name of Women in the Trenches, because we believe that women have been always part of the struggle, part of the workers' struggle against domination. Siglo XXI is a group conformed like 1 year ago, probably, because of the coup d'etat that affected Bolivia in November of 2019. We are a platform, a international platform where many people got together in order to fight the coup d'etat and to denounce all the human rights violation. And especially in Bolivia, you've been able to see how women, like indigenous women, they were really mistreated by all this fascist wave that affected Bolivia. We can see now that it has changed a lot because democracy is restored in Bolivia. But anyway, there is a long struggle yet ahead because women need to recover places and need to be recognized as participants of the society in all its levels. So thank you very much for everybody. Thank you very much, Mari Carmen, for inviting us to be part of this.
Thank you, Gustavo. We are celebrating our day today, Women's Day, but as many of my compañeros, males, who've been helping me to doing this. Thank you, Gustavo. Ariana Quintana, she was here before, I don't know what happened. Yeah, she's here. Ariana, can you unmute yourself? Okay, I don't know what happened with her, but she's there. Okay, we are going to introduce now our first speaker, Gloria Villena. Gloria is a secretary of the Women Federation Micaela Batista Pulucagua del Perú. Bienvenida, Gloria. Okay. I don't know but she was there. Okay, Gloria is not there yet. Okay, I don't know what happened, but she was there. Betty Rahza, Movimiento Micaela Bastida, the UK is going to give a greeting from UK.
Hello. I didn't know that it was going to be in English, but I will
you
try.
can do it in Spanish. we have many Spanish speakers.
It's okay. It's okay. We try. So I say hello to everybody, and this is a special day for us. And yeah, I'm based on London with very good and compact group of women and also men, comrades, that we work together in order of fight for our rights in every continent, sorry, in every country of our Latin American, and also in here with the right of the workers and the immigrants. So we are also a part of activists are internationalists. So we don't have frontiers. We are here to join every border, every frontiers in order to say united that our fight is together for the humanity, equality and human rights and justice for everybody. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. I don't know if Gloria Villena is here yet, but I don't see her now. Is Gloria there? No. Our next guest speaker is Amancay Colque. She's a teacher, activist, and member of the Bolivarian Solidarity Campaign, London, UK. Welcome, Amancay.
Sorry, Mari Carmen. Good
That's
evening.
okay.
Thank you so much for inviting me to talk about our group and what we're doing. Can I share my screen?
Yes, of course.
Yes. Okay, sure. Okay. I'm not allowed to share. Can you habilitate me?
Yes,
Can you?
I can, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Okay. So I'm going to start with Bolivia Solidarity Campaign. So Bolivia Solidarity Campaign was created in October 2003. This is because in Bolivia there was a massacre. Goni Sanchez de Rosada sent the army to kill people in El Alto. We had campaigned in the past, but we didn't have our own campaign. So we decided to set up a campaign as a matter of an emergency because we needed to approach the media that was misinforming people at the time, and we needed to do a lot of campaigning, approach the unions and on politicians. So it was founded in October 2003. Since then, we did lots of activism, but I think the most important activity we did was when in 2006 the Pozoconi mountain, which is in Huanuni, Bolivia, and is worth billions of dollars in tin, is very rich in tin. The government, Evo Morales, was in power, and cooperativists were attacking the state miners. And now cooperativist is a nice word, because it seems, like ordinary workers coming together. But in reality, this was a multinational that used cooperativists in order to avoid paying taxes. And what they wanted to do is they wanted to destroy the state mining company, Comibol, and they wanted to get rid of the state miners. And so the miners, the trade union miners that were in contact with us, we were working with them, sent us an emergency call saying that they needed us to do something. So we asked, what is it exactly that you want? Because it was 6 o'clock in the morning, and the cooperatives were throwing dynamite into the mines, and inside the mines were the miners were working. So their call was, we want the Grant Thornton a British company that was in charge of liquidating this mine, the assets of a British company called RBG. And you know the way these multinationals work is they keep changing their names. So it was nationalized by the Goni, privatized by Goni, and the company was corrupt. The owners of this company were in jail, and the company was sent by the court to Grant Thornton to liquidate the company. So basically, Bolivian wealth, natural resources were in the hands of a British company that were going to pass on to somebody else. So they couldn't go to Bolivia to fight against Bolivian people. But what they did is they sent the poorest of the poor, cooperativist miners, to go and do their dirty deeds. So these Bolivian cooperativists went to Bolivia with a power of attorney that the Grant Thornton had given them. And they were convinced that they had bought the Pozoconi mountain, worth billions of dollars in $2 million. Yeah. So they were with dynamite, drunk and armed with dynamite, ready to kill the miners in Bolivia. So what we did is we called trade unionists, British trade unionists, we called Latin American comrades to come, and we went and we walked to the building, Grant Thornton, which was in central London, and we had our hands with red paints, and we told them, this is it, this is what's happening in Bolivia, this is what you're causing. We did 2 pickets, and those 2 pickets meant that the Grant Thornton was forced to extinguish the power of attorney that they had given to the cooperativists in Bolivia. The state miners, the union, had a copy of the extinguished power of attorney, and they sat down with Evo Morales at a meeting, and they created the biggest mine in Bolivia, which is Huanuni, and it has given billions to the country in natural resources. So this is the power that people have when workers from Bolivia and workers from the UK are in contact, they are connected, and we trust each other and we understand each other, we know what we're doing. Yeah. So we had all the documents, we had all the proof, we could explain and express what was happening. So it was a very powerful action that was very important. Then we also knew that many people from our community that were coming to help us, one of the biggest problems they had was documents. They were illegal, they didn't have their residency papers. So we joined with a trade union that was created by cleaners for cleaners in the UK, because the biggest unions, the unions in this country are very rich and powerful, but the cleaners were in a very difficult situation because their situation was precarious. Many people were illegal, and many people only worked part-time. So they didn't want to get involved with people that they couldn't afford to pay their dues to the union. So this trade union was created by Latin American people. I think Chilean refugees created it, and it was passed on to Colombian and other nationalities. So we marched, and it was in 2006, I think, or 2007. We organized, and when all the NGOs realized that actually we were mobilizing and we were marching, the Catholic Church got involved, and of course they beat us because they had more money, and they came with this slogan, citizens, but these were ours: make all immigrants legal, we all workers, not criminal. all immigration controls are racist and so on. So no fronteras, no illegales. So these were the people that we were campaigning with for many years. But these other that it says just citizens, they were printed by NGOs, yeah. And they had also told us not to bring our flags, but to bring British flags, which in this country is terrible because the National Front, the right wing, the fascists use these British flags. So what we did is, we printed our own messages, and we also brought our wipalas. And in this picture, this is a famous square, Trafalgar Square, where we all go to protest against the war or against different demands. And when I got in with Wipala, all the newspapers, all the people that want to take pictures, they started taking pictures. And this picture made it to the front page of the newspaper, which was really good. This was the message we wanted to tell, the establishment. Then we also participated in a Latin American recognition campaign. This was very important because until then, Latin Americans were invisible, and many times they put us as Spanish, but we didn't have Spanish passports. Yeah, not like now. Now there are many Latin American people with Spanish passports. By the time there were only very, very few. And so we participated in our unions, trade unions. We participated against the war. We participated against immigration controls, because we think it's part of the same struggle. So any organization that has as a name against privatization, against taking state resources for privatization, for private pockets, although we are not British, we recognize that we have is the same struggle. We share the same principles. Finally, this is during the pandemic. In Bolivia, there was the coup, and we couldn't march. We couldn't protest. We couldn't do anything. There was a lot of impotence. And just before the coup, there is a group here called Extinction Rebellion, and they were managed to, because they are not political, not openly political, they were convinced by a right-wing group, Bolivian right-wing group in London, that Evo Morales was the same as Bolsonaro, and that Evo Morales was burning the rainforest, and that Evo Morales was a dictator. So they organized a protest in front of the Bolivian embassy. This is when Evo Morales was president, yeah? Lawfully elected president. And so we had to get in touch with Extinction Rebellion. We made contact with, this is one Latin American member of Extinction Rebellion, and we had meetings with them, and they said that they were sorry, that they didn't know what was going on in Bolivia, and that they wanted to work closer together with us. And they helped us to organize an action in Trafalgar Square. This is a time when the police were dispersing us. They didn't allow us to stand there for long, and you couldn't come together. So it was a very difficult action, but was very important because at the time they were killing people in Bolivia. We also organized an action against Elon Musk, because he has shops in London. And so we organized 2 actions against 2 different shops of Elon Musk, and we gave him a letter. Also, in this is 12th of October, but before 12th of October, here in the UK, there was a continuation of the Black Lives Matter in the USA. Here in Bristol, they started to pull down the statues of slave owners, and this particular one, this is Colston in Bristol, he was thrown to the river. And this was because for years the people had been saying in Bristol that they didn't want to have that statue there. But when things started to happen in the US, in the UK youth, the young people, these are all young people, they all started to take action in their own hands, you know. And this is in the middle of the pandemic when nobody was going out of getting out of their homes. So for the 12th of October, this is us with Extinction Rebellion. They help us to organize a march and protest in front of the Bolivian embassy. And then we marched very close to the Spanish embassy, and in front of the Spanish embassy was Cristobal Colon. And we said that we were going to organize a campaign to bring down Cristobal Columbus statue. It couldn't be that in 2021 we still have a statue to a genocidal man, and the man that initiated the whole you know, colonization and genocide in the New World and Africa. And to our surprise, in after the elections in Sabina Orellana in October 2020 became the minister of cultures, decolonization and depatriarchalization. And this is Canary Wharf. This is the part of the city that is mostly protected by police. You cannot do anything, protest or marching there without being noticed by the police. But they had, this was the stand where a slave owner, Robert Milligan, used to stand. And the authorities had taken it down themselves to protect the statue. And activists came overnight and they erected this pyramid. This is the pyramid of love, eternal love, infinite love. And in there are 4 faces, but one of them is Sabina Orellana, and it's in honor to the indigenous population and the original people. And this was to symbolize that love had triumphed in Bolivia. Yeah, so Bolivian women stood up to fascism, and through the elections they regained democracy. Okay, thank you very much. Mari Carmen, tu micrófono está apagado.
Ok, gracias. Gracias. Creo que la compañera de Perú ya está con nosotros. I think our friend from Peru is with us now. Gloria.
Compañeras, muy buenas tardes. ¿Se me escuchan?
Sí, le escuchamos.
Muy bien. Compañeros, buenas tardes. Creo que es un honor para mí estar presente en este evento tan importante por el Día Internacional de la Mujer. Nosotros desde aquí, de la Plaza San Martín de Perú, estamos en pleno evento por la conmemoración del Día Internacional de la Mujer. Aquí tenemos un acto cultural donde nos hemos reunido todas las mujeres de diferentes ámbitos, grupos colectivos, federaciones, organizaciones. Nos hemos unido por este Día Internacional de la Mujer, donde la consigna hemos logrado unir a todos y dijimos, por la emancipación de la mujer y la lucha contra el capitalismo, es nuestra consigna por la unidad de todas las mujeres, de todas las agrupaciones. Ante el mundo, las mujeres de Perú, pues estamos pasando muy mal, ¿no? Aquí en Perú, esta pandemia que es como la tercera guerra mundial para nosotros. Yo lo veo como la tercera guerra mundial, porque es una pandemia, ¿no? Donde a todas nosotros nos han castigado mucho. Muchas mujeres hemos sido maltratadas, violentadas. Y ante esta pandemia que colapsó la economía y la salud a nivel mundial, pero acá en Perú creo que ha sido lo peor que aquí en Perú la pandemia ha puesto al descubierto que a estos sinvergüenzas que están en el poder solamente han podido trabajar todo a buscar sus propios intereses. Esta solo refleja que este sistema capitalista no le interesa al pueblo. Esta crisis solo pega al pueblo, ¿no? Y los grandes empresarios se enriquecen con las jugosas plusvalias de los trabajadores. Esta situación precarizó aún más a las mujeres de nuestro país, que no solo vieron despedidas en las fábricas, con muchas obreras, ¿no? Hubo violaciones, hubo excluidas las trabajadoras, golpeadas, y con esto fueron llevadas una vida precaria de ellos. La infancia solo es la que saborea de esta violencia del capitalismo machista y patriarcal. El abandono del Estado en salud, educación, cultura, trabajo y agricultura afecta a los pueblos en general, especialmente a las mujeres y niños. Por ende, hoy, 8 de marzo, hemos decidido salir a las calles, ¿no? Un rato nos hemos dado por el Congreso a presentar y a reclamar, diciendo que el Congreso ya nos haga respetar nuestros derechos como mujeres. Nosotros nos hemos levantado, las mujeres herederas, pioneras de la revolucionaria como Micaela Bastida Pumicagua, Tomasa Tito Condemaita, Cecilia Tupac Amaro, Juana Paza, Juana Zurduy, Bartolina Sisa, Manuelita Sáenz, entre otros. Seguimos en las luchas y estamos resistiendo todavía. Así es, compañero. Discúlpame, pero es grande la decepción de nosotros, de las mujeres de a pie. Eso quería decirles, compañeras. ¿Alguna pregunta?
Las preguntas las vamos a hacer al final. Luis va a traducir un poco lo que usted dijo. Muchas gracias.
Ya, compañera. Gracias a ustedes.
Gracias. Vamos a hacer preguntas. Luis, can you do a little bit of something what she said?
Okay, in a nutshell, that in Peru, there has been issues with regards to the women, the pandemic, and the economy. The three put together have created a very hard situation that basically puts those who are not rich in a much worse situation than before. That's a summary. You asked me for a summary, so.
Yeah, thank you. They've been on the street all day protesting and commemorate the woman who fighting for the
Gloria, perdón, Mari Carmen.
Yes.
Sí, me gustaría, I would like to add a little bit more about Gloria, and they are at the moment in a big march about the Women's Day, but also she's part, her organization, Micaela Bastida, Confederación National Confederation of Women's, Micaela Bastidas Puyukawa, who was the partner of Tupac Amaru, the great warriors of our independence in Peru and Latin America. She is part of a red of women's group who now are gathering on the street and also are going to do a cultural act in regard of what happened in Peru and how the pandemic have affected to society and also especially to women. So Gloria is a very good activist, women activist, and at the moment her organization are doing workshops to form and to contribute with the learning and awareness to women from a very poor condition, but also to intellectual. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, we are not professional translators, but we are trying to do our best. We really want to invite everybody. It doesn't matter if we speak the language, but I know we care about each other. And at the end of the speakers, we're going to ask questions. And the way we're going to do it, each one has to ask the question because I couldn't do a co-host and I don't have anybody could help me. I don't know what happened. We tried to do it at the last minute, but I don't have a co-host. I'm doing everything. And it's why at the end of the presentation, the person who wants to ask questions has to do it has to ask her hand up, please. And our next speaker, I'm sorry. Our next speaker is Alison Bonnet. I'm sorry, Alison. She's a writer, a publisher of Fire This Time, and a member of Vancouver, Cuba, Solidarity, and Venezuela Solidarity. Welcome, Alison.
Gracias, Mary Carmen, y a todos y todas que están en esta reunión importante. Y soy Alison Bodin de Canadá, de Vancouver, y estoy parte del consejo editorial de la revista Fire This Time, y el movimiento por la justicia social se llama Fire This Time. Primeramente, quiero reconocer los territorios tradicionales aquí en Canadá y Burnaby específicamente, desde mi casa, las naciones Squamish, Tsleil-Waututh y Musqueam. Y a decir que feliz Día Internacional de la Mujer. Es un honor estar en este evento con tantas mujeres luchadoras y los aliados también. Desde la desigualdad económica hasta la desigualdad ante la ley y el femicidio, las mujeres de todo el mundo siguen enfrentándose a la injusticia y la desigualdad en todos los países. Combatir estas injusticias es un desafío, no solo por el sexismo sistemático y la desigualdad, sino también por las divisiones que enfrentamos como mujeres. El racismo, el sexismo, la discriminación por edad, la xenofobia, la discapacidad, la homofobia, la transfobia y otras formas de discriminación sistémica son todas ideologías que separan a las mujeres de reconocer nuestros intereses comunes y trabajar juntas por nuestros derechos. En Canadá, las mujeres hemos luchado y logrado muchos avances en nuestros derechos, desde el derecho a voto hasta la igualdad bajo la ley canadiense y la creación de varias instituciones para mujeres. Al mismo tiempo, muchos problemas sistémicos continúan frenando a las mujeres en Canadá, de modo de nuestra lucha por los derechos de las mujeres continuará. Si bien el primer ministro del Partido Liberal de Canadá, Justin Trudeau, se autodenomina feminista, su feminista no incluye a las mujeres más marginadas de Canadá o proporcionar cuidado infantil y vivienda asequibles para las mujeres para las mujeres que lo necesitan, o sus políticas para poner fin a la violencia contra las mujeres en Canadá, o para mejorar el acceso al aborto de las mujeres en las comunidades rurales o eliminar la brecha salarial. Por supuesto, entendemos que los hombres que se llaman a sí mismos feministas son inútiles para nuestra causa, a menos que tomen medidas a nuestro lado. Su feminismo de Justin Trudeau tampoco se aplica a las mujeres que son brutalizadas, violadas y asesinadas en guerras y ocupaciones apoyadas por Canadá en todo el mundo, desde Haití hasta Mali en África, Afganistán, Irak y Yemen. Tampoco a las mujeres en América Latina que enfrentan dificultades continuas debido a las intervenciones imperialistas del gobierno de Canadá en América Latina y el apoyo de gobiernos golpistas de derecha, como en Bolivia antes, o mujeres y familias que luchan contra las corporaciones mineras en Canadá, de Canadá. Dentro de las fronteras de Canadá, las mujeres indígenas están bajo constante ataque. El informe se llama Homicidio en Canadá de Statistics Canada, aclara que en 2018 las mujeres indígenas representaron casi el 28% de las mujeres víctimas de homicidio, a pesar de representar solo el 5% de la población femenina de Canadá. Según CBC News, todavía no se sabe cuántas mujeres y niñas indígenas han sido asesinadas o han desaparecido en Canadá. Algunas estimaciones han sugerido que aproximadamente 4,000 mujeres indígenas han sido asesinadas o han desaparecido en las últimas décadas. Pero la investigación dijo que es posible que nunca se sepa un número exacto. Sabemos desde el Servicio Nacional de Información sobre Mujeres Desaparecidas y Asesinadas Indígenas que las mujeres y niñas indígenas son 16 veces más propensas a ser asesinadas o van a faltar que las mujeres blancas. Esto tampoco considera otras desigualdades que enfrentan las mujeres y niñas indígenas, como una menor esperanza de vida, tasas más altas de estar en cárceles, acceso desigual a la educación, la atención médica y los servicios sociales, etc. Con la pandemia, la situación de las mujeres se ha vuelto más peligrosa. Canadá no está recopilando datos sobre raza y género en muchas autoridades sanitarias. Mientras que los informes de los Estados Unidos muestran que las personas negras e indígenas contraen el COVID-19 a tasas más altas y mueren a tasas más altas. Pero no sé este datos en Canadá. En la pandemia tenemos grandes desigualdades y racismo en el sistema de salud en específica. También las mujeres de Canadá están sufriendo más violencia en el hogar. Antes de la pandemia, aproximadamente una vez a la semana, una mujer es asesinada por su pareja masculina en Canadá. Ahora se espera que aumente el número. Las mujeres también se han enfrentado a la peor parte de los desafíos económicos y la pérdida de puestos de trabajo provocados por la pandemia. A concluir, la razón por la que las mujeres tienen derecho al voto y por qué las mujeres lucharon. La razón por la que mujeres tienen derecho al voto en Canadá es porque las mujeres lucharon. La razón por que el matrimonio entre personas del mismo sexo es legal en Canadá es porque la comunidad LGBTQ luchó. La razón por la que Canadá tuvo una investigación nacional sobre las mujeres y niñas indígenas desaparecidas y asesinadas es porque las mujeres lucharon. La sociedad nunca adoptará a las mujeres y sus derechos, siempre han tenido que unirse y luchar. Entonces, nuestra lucha continuará. Venceremos. Gracias.
Alison, can you resume that in English, please?
Yeah, I can do a summary in English.
Summary, please, because it's other people going to speak.
Yeah, thank you everyone for participating today. It is an honor to be here for International Women's Day. I'm from the editorial board of the Fire This Time newspaper and the Fire This Time movement for social justice. I am here in Vancouver, Canada. I wanted to speak today, first to say Happy International Women's Day, and then also to say that from economic inequality to inequality under the law to femicide, women worldwide continue to face injustice and inequality in every country. And fighting these injustices is a challenge, not only because of systemic sexism and inequality, but also because of the divisions that we face or that are imposed on us as women. Racism, sexism, ageism, xenophobia, ableism, homophobia, transphobia, and other forms of systemic discrimination are all ideologies that separate women from recognizing our common interests and working together for our rights. I also wanted to highlight the struggle of Indigenous women in Canada. There is the national inquiry into murdered and missing Indigenous women and girls, but overall we have seen the so-called feminist Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau, take no action, him or any of the other members of the Liberal Party, no action in defense of women or of Indigenous women in particular. We really have to see that our struggle for women's rights has to continue, and especially to understand that the government of Canada does not only brutalize women here in Canada and Indigenous women in particular, but also women in countries around the world where Canada supports and wages wars and occupations, from Mali and Yemen to Afghanistan and Iraq to Haiti here in the Western Hemisphere, and that women in across Latin America also face the brunt of Canada's interventions, sanctions, and imperialist policies in Latin America, or also of Canadian mining companies in Latin America especially. Indigenous women face higher rates of murder from their partners, and they have a less of a chance at in all aspects of life. They are discriminated against and face racism, healthcare, education, and just everyday life. So I gave some statistics about that. And also just said during the pandemic, all of this has gotten worse, especially the issue of healthcare for Indigenous women, who have really spotlighted the racism that they face going to the hospital for a regular procedure or a checkup, or even something life-threatening and emergency, where there was a case of an Indigenous woman who recorded as she died the doctors and staff making racist comments about her. So with all of this information, and with knowing that women face the brunt of the pandemic, increased domestic violence, the highest rates of job loss, I wanted to end by just saying we have gained rights in Canada and in many countries around the world. For example, in Argentina, with the victory of the right to abortion this year. But all of that has been gained because we have struggled. And society has never gifted women with our rights. We have always had to unite and fight. And so our fight will be continued. Venceremos. We will win. Thank you.
Thank you, Alison. And now we are going to have Carmen Victoria Núñez, social activist and feminist, Apacuanas, Boticario, el alimento venezolano. It's a pleasure to me to introduce Carmen Victoria Núñez. We know how important it is for us to support Venezuela, and Venezuela needs our support in every way that we could. You know, Canada is interfering with the policy in Venezuela and doing whatever United States want us to do here in Canada. Please welcome Carmen Victoria Núñez.
Mari Carmen,
Mm-hmm.
I am not Carmen, but anyway, I believe that Carmen has left the meeting because she couldn't understand English. That's what she wrote in the message.
Okay.
And Gisela too, I am not seeing her, and probably she already left because of the language. She couldn't understand English either.
Okay. And we're going to introduce Ariana. Ariana is from the Cuban Embassy. She's going to give us a greeting from the Cuban Embassy. She's from the press. Thank you, Ariana.
Thank you so much, Mari, for inviting me to this amazing webinar. For me, it's really a pleasure to be here today in such an important day. Congratulations to all the women in our day. If you prefer, I can give a brief of some information about Cuba in English, and then try to make a resume in Spanish for everyone could understand.
Yeah.
Okay. So I have nothing prepared to this meeting, but I have some numbers of the women in the Cuban Revolution, the importance and the gender equality that exists in Cuba. As many of you know, in our parliament, we have 53% of the women representation on the parliament. It's the second parliament in the world with more women in the power, we can say. Before of the Cuban Revolution, only the 10% of the working force was women. Nowadays, with the revolution, we have the 49%. That is in grand measure thanks to the Cuban Federation of Women and our government that since the very beginning starting supporting the woman role in the society. We have nowadays 67.2% of the professionals in Cuba are women. 48% of the politicians and administrative leaders are women. 81.9% are teachers, professors, and science are women. And 80% of the lawyers, judges, and provincial courts are women. So we can understand and see how important is a woman in the work and in the revolution. Also in our minister, in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, I think that is the 44% of our ambassadors are women. So I think that we have achieved many goals in the revolution, in the Cuban Revolution. We have many things to do. We have to continue fighting for our rights. But I think that this is a day for celebrate. In our country, we can say that we can celebrate because we have a very important role in the Cuban society. Bueno, si ahora desean, puedo hacer un pequeño resumen de los datos que he dicho en español para las personas que hablan español. ¿Estaría bien, Mari?
Sí, corazón.
Sí, cómo no. Bueno, estuve diciendo que desde el principio de la Revolución Cubana en nuestro país a las mujeres se le ha dado un rol importante en las labores y en el desarrollo del país. Antes del triunfo de la revolución, es decir, antes de 1959, solo el 10% de la fuerza laboral del país eran mujeres. Hoy en día, después de la revolución y de todo lo que hemos logrado, el 49% de la fuerza laboral de nuestro país somos mujeres. Como algunos conocen, nuestro país tiene el segundo parlamento en el mundo con mayor presencia de la mujer en la toma de decisiones, bueno, con un 53.5% de representantes femeninas. El 67.2% de los técnicos y profesionales en Cuba somos mujeres. El 48% de los políticos y los líderes administrativos en el país somos mujeres. El 81.9% de los profesores, de los académicos, de los científicos somos mujeres, que como todos conocen, muchas de las mujeres cubanas actualmente están trabajando en el desarrollo de los 5 candidatos vacunales que tiene Cuba para enfrentar la COVID-19. La mayoría de ellas son mujeres. El 80% de los abogados, jueces, trabajadores en las cortes provinciales somos mujeres. Un dato importante que se me pasó, desde el principio de la revolución, las mujeres y los hombres perciben el mismo salario por igual trabajo. Esto fue un logro desde el inicio de nuestra revolución, un logro por el cual trabajó la Federación de las Mujeres Cubanas desde el inicio. Y en nuestro ministerio, es decir, en la Cancillería de Cuba, el 44% de los embajadores, de los representantes de Cuba en el exterior, son mujeres. Hemos logrado mucho en materia de igualdad de género, de nuestros logros. En Cuba hoy es un día para celebrar. Tenemos que continuar luchando para alcanzar y defender todos nuestros derechos, pero podemos decir que con la revolución hemos podido llegar a tener y a disfrutar de nuestros derechos. Y felicidades a todas las mujeres en nuestro día.
Gracias,
muchísimas gracias.
Muchas gracias. Hay una compañera de Ecuador, pero Gustavo, ¿tú me puedes decir el nombre porque perdí el mensaje? Una compañera de Ecuador que le gustaría dar unas palabras.
¿Y dónde está?
Ella es Mayra Crem. Mayra Crem.
Mayra Crem. Okay.
Sí. Mayrita.
Mayrita, ok.
Ay, perdón, buenas noches. Mi internet, good evening, good afternoon. I don't know what time is because I can see where we are in here connected from a few countries. Yes, I am from Ecuador. Obviously, I think I'm going to speak Spanish because I feel a little bit more comfortable speaking Spanish, but I think women has contributed quite a lot in the changes and also in the in bringing many rights across the world. Tenemos unos retos bastantes importantes que venir especialmente en toda Latinoamérica y en el mundo, ¿no? Tenemos un sistema capitalista realmente que no responde a las necesidades de la mayoría de los pueblos. Un sistema que es lleno de abusos, lleno de sexismos, racismos, xenofobias. Las mujeres no nos pagan sueldos justos. Somos víctimas del abuso, la violencia y pienso que realmente hay mucho por hacer y muchas gracias por darme la bienvenida a esta reunión. Gracias.
Gracias. Luis? Luis is not here anymore. Okay. She was thanking to everybody for us, thanking us for let her to speak. She was talking about the successful that they have with the revolution in Ecuador and the problem they have facing now with the government they have. Sorry, but I am not very good at translating. Anyway, now we are going to have, if somebody have question, they can ask. Put your hand up, please, and I can let you speak.
Yes, I would like to ask to Amancay. Amancay, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
So, from your perspective, I wonder, what do you think about the pandemic? How deep it has affected women in Bolivia, for example?
Okay. Well, we were going through another pandemic or two other pandemics, which are dengue and arenavirus. So we had pandemics in Bolivia, but we were not aware. We were blinded. And for instance, I remember in 1985, 86, when I left Bolivia, the biggest problem, Gustavo, was that young people were killing themselves. There were the very high rate of suicides, but they were unrecorded. We had no records of people that in El Alto used to kill themselves because they were starving. They were so hungry. And we knew that we had the highest percentage of mortality rate for children under 2. And I remember in every family, in my family and my neighbors, you saw a baby and it was common for a family to say, what happened to the baby? Or the baby died. Evo Morales' family was like that. Out of 8 or 7 brothers and sisters, only 3 survived. And so did we have healthcare? No, we never had healthcare. And so what did we do? We used herbs and we use the sun and we use natural herbs to look after ourselves. Now, I think the biggest difference is that although the government is still poor, we have access, we have a government that we trust. And because we have a government that we trust, they were able to, for instance, bring the vaccines from China, that they are more than, I think we have enough to cover the whole country twice. And we will be able to survive. We will be okay in the end. Yeah, so the pandemic is not as serious as the pandemic of racism and right-wing bigotry that still pervades in our country. It's still there. It's a small percentage. It's 36%, but it's still there. and it's very dangerous. We haven't come out of danger. It's really dangerous, and we must continue working together. Yeah. Sorry.
Okay, that's good.
All right. Okay.
Catherine from UK is here, and she wants to give us some thought about Bolivia and Venezuela. Welcome, Catherine.
Oh, hi. Yeah, just revolutionary greetings on this day, which is International Women's Day. And this is a day of struggle against oppression, patriarchy, capitalism, and imperialism. And it's interesting, in the English world, I feel like this day is ignored. A lot of people in the English-speaking world don't know about it. Whereas in the Spanish-speaking world, this day seems to be confused with Valentine's Day or Mother's Day. It's a day to give women flowers and to share memes that are very pink and flowery and almost to, I suppose, reinforce gender stereotypes, that we're sort of these delicate pink flowers. But really that's, I feel, why it's so important to vindicate this day as a day of struggle. And really from the perspective of Bolivia Solidarity Campaign, we're a group that is almost entirely made up of revolutionary women. And this last 18 months has been a time of intense struggle against this US-backed brutal coup regime. But now that we've recovered democracy, really the work continues, the struggle continues. The far right has not gone away. We had regional elections yesterday, and the result was good for the movement for socialism, for the MAS. The result was good. They won many governorships, municipalities, mayors, and however, we do have a number of really nasty right-wing figures that also won positions of power. It's really quite horrible that on this International Women's Day, we find out that the new mayor of La Paz is going to be this very right-wing guy who was a figure in Janine Áñez's regime. He's called Ivan Arias, and he's been accused multiple times of sexual abuse by women, and yet he's now the mayor of La Paz. It's horrific. And the mayor of Cochabamba, who was elected, is Manfred Reyes Villa, who's this notoriously corrupt person who has multiple cases against him for corruption, and who is openly allied to the United States. He came back to Bolivia with his people behind him carrying a US flag, so the right wing hasn't gone away. Oh yeah, and Fernando Camacho, the notorious far right, violently racist, coup supporting right-wing leader from Santa Cruz, he won the governorship of Santa Cruz, which is quite horrible. So the struggle continues. So we still need to, there's still a lot of work that that needs to be done. As Bolivia Solidarity Campaign, we vow to continue the struggle, and also we vow to express our solidarity with Venezuela, who are facing horrific sanctions at this moment. I'm also part of the Hands of Venezuela campaign, and our two campaigns work closely together to resist US imperialism and all of its ravages. So thank you so much for this event that you've organized today, and it's really very important to talk about these things, and it's great to see so many different women from different parts of the world who are working so hard to resist capitalism, patriarchy, and imperialism.
Thank you, Catherine.
Do you want me to say that in Spanish?
Pardon?
Do you want me to say that in Spanish? It's a bit long, but do you want me to say?
I think most of the people understand English.
Now.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Compañeras from Venezuela, they left because they couldn't understand anything. Anyway, any questions?
I have a question, but in Spanish, my English is not very good. Can I?
Or you can do it in French, and Pierre can help us with the translation.
You speak French? I can. I can try in English, but.
I am translating whatever is saying in English or in Spanish. I am translating in the chat window.
Okay.
Yeah, so I am translating as much as I can anyway.
Okay.
So you can go in Spanish, Roxana, puedes en español. Y yo
There's many French speakers in the audience. Okay. Whatever you want.
Okay. En français alors? Ok, en français. C'est ça, je m'excuse parce que je suis arrivée juste après, à moitié de l'exposé d'Amancay. Mais ce que je soulève ici, c'est que la crise capitaliste, elle n'a fait que approfondir la problématique qui est reliée aux femmes, première chose. Et cette crise capitaliste approfondie encore plus avec la crise Covid, ce qui fait que la question de la femme, et les questions des femmes et revendications des femmes, des luttes des femmes, ont été voilées par une série de problématiques, des questions qui sont voilées parce qu'on doit s'attaquer à la Covid, etc., etc. Il y a un problème qui me traverse, c'est celui de la violence, faite aux femmes, et la violence dans les contextes aujourd'hui, la violence faite aux femmes et la violence politique. Dans les contextes sud-américains et en particulier la Bolivie a vécu cette violence faite aux femmes. Et cette violence aujourd'hui s'est traduite par l'élection des personnages sombres comme Arias, qui vient de souligner par Caterina, qui vient de parler d'Arias, qui a été élu comme maire de La Paz. C'est quelqu'un qui a été accusé de harcèlement sexuel. Alors la question, juste en guise de réflexion pour tout le monde, comment se fait-il qu'on élit des personnages qui sont accusés de violence, qui sont accusés des crimes de lèse-humanité, qui sont accusés d'avoir commis des crimes, si vous voulez, et comment se fait-il qu'on parvienne à élire ces individus alors qu'on sait qu'ils sont des individus nuisibles pour la politique? C'est juste une question générale, je le sais, mais il me fallait la dire parce que dans les contextes aujourd'hui de la journée qui disent internationale de la femme, moi je dis c'est la journée des travailleuses pour les droits des femmes parce qu'ils sont pas encore résolus beaucoup de problèmes. Donc cette question est générale pour les participantes, mais également pour les autres. Voilà. Merci.
Ok, Mari Carmen, yo voy a hacer el esfuerzo de traducir al inglés. ¿Qué te parece?
Me parece perfecto.
Bueno, no es perfecto, pero...
No, me parece perfecto que tú lo vas a hacer, o Pierre, Pierre can do it too.
Okay, what the compañera said was she was distressed really by the fact that the pandemic has made the situation of women much worse. and made violence against women much worse as well. And to sort of summarize the question that compañera is asking is, she says, how is it possible that the people like the mayor of La Paz, who is well known for sexual abuse, and people like him who are guilty of crimes against humanity, of crimes against people, how is it possible that these people get elected? Particularly, she'd like to ask this question of the compañeras from Latin America. I think from London, our compañeras from Bolivia. And she says that the struggle of the working women has become worse with the pandemic, much worse, in fact, and that this is also a problem that, tied to the violence against women. And how is it possible that the politics does not address, the politicians who are elected do not bother to address this? Ma copaine là, est-ce que j'ai traduit bien ou à peu près?
Yeah.
Je demande à ma compagne là, est-ce que j'ai traduit bien ou vous avez autre chose à dire?
Roxana, tu micrófono, Roxana.
Ok.
Sí, no,
me parece que sí.
Sí, no, pero además porque como hablamos español se entiende la idea. Quisiera decir algo cortito. En primer lugar, quisiera decir, first of all, I would like to say something short, that I don't think the violence against women is casual. It's not a coincidence. It's not by chance. I think it's targeted. And I think quite clearly, the right wing have targeted women because Bolivian women are the ones that made the revolution. Because don't forget that 1952 was the first time that actually Bolivia recognized women as a citizen. It was the revolution, the 1952 revolution, that gave citizenship to women and to indigenous women. The only way that indigenous women were able to become citizens is because they could speak Spanish. Yeah, if they could speak Spanish. Now I come from a neighborhood. I come from Pampajasi. I come from an area, and my mother is Aymara, and my mother is a single parent, and my mother had to work as a maid. Now, so you cannot see. I mean, I cannot explain to you the magnitude of the revolution in Bolivia at this point. The fact that indigenous people, I mean, for instance, racism in Bolivia is not.
Racismo en Bolivia.
Racism in Bolivia is not an isolated case. Racism in Bolivia is strong and is very difficult to get rid of it. Why? Because thieves came to the country, killed and stole our wealth, and they are trying to legalize that. To legalize the thievery, the robbery, they had to say, and I grew up listening to that, saying to us, you indigenous people, you're like animals, you have no morals, only religion will redeem you. Indigenous people rape their daughters, they inbreed, all those lies that we had to overcome in 2006 for Evo Morales to become president. So there is a very deep revolutionary process going on in Bolivia that we don't see it. I mean, if the right wing was benefiting from this, there would be broadcasting everywhere. But because it's ours, it's indigenous, it's the domestic workers who are doing the revolution in Bolivia. These women, the Bartolinas that got Evo Morales from the Chapare and revived him. Yeah, those women that wrote the Constitution and the hate that the right wing have for them. We're going to have to wait until these people die, this racist right wing. And what can we do? What can we do? I mean, in Bolivia, remember in the 1980s, the 1990s, there was no food in Bolivia. And then there were women from the countryside, indigenous women, that brought to the city potatoes, food to feed the people. And they still insulted them and attacked them. So the level of hate against women in Bolivia is incredible. It's amazing. But those women are resilient, because my mother brought me up and the neighbors, and we all came together because they know what they're against. We know that those races are racist, but they're not racist today. They are from generation to generation. Camacho, look at his family. Mesa, look at his family. These are generations and generations. But the women in Bolivia, especially the Bartolinas, they know how to fight. They don't fight a stick with a stick. They fight with food, with love. And that's the way we have to overcome. We cannot allow them to say, oh, this attack is only to women. It's not just to women. But women are at the forefront of the struggle, of the revolution. And what we need to do is we need to make it visible. We need to give them space. We have to give them air, and we have to link them to the struggles in this country, in the UK. We want to link them to the youth that are stopping cars because of they care about the environment. We need to link them with the workers that are asking for better pay. We need to make those connections. We need to make those links. We need to make them visible. But I don't think it's only, I don't think it's going to affect only women. You see, because women in Bolivia are used to take the brunt. Women are the ones that have fed the country. Women are the ones that looked after the country, that looked after our health. They have the information, the knowledge for food and so on. Yes, we need to make sure that they are visible and they are supported. We have to do that, because we're the daughters of Bartolina Sisa. We are her children, so we have to do it. I think that's our duty. I don't know what Katerina thinks.
Thank you. Sorry. Thank you. Another question?
Yeah, I just wanted to add to what Amancay was saying, if I can. In response to the question, like, how could someone that is accused of sexual abuse be elected to be mayor of La Paz? I mean, if the exit polls are correct, around 49% of the urban population of La Paz voted for this guy. And that must mean that a lot of women voted for him. And to me, this indicates that we know that in the cities, the movement towards socialism has a problem. The mass are very popular in the countryside, and not so much in the cities, because the cities, that's where people think that they're very middle class if they live in the city, and so generally that's the problem, first of all. But secondly, when you're presented with a candidate who's a drunk, who is sexist, who was part of the coup regime, and he's accused of sexual abuse, and then they vote for them anyway, that to me indicates that for a lot of middle class urban city dwellers, their class hatred and their racism is greater than any desire to protect women or to stand up for their own rights as women, because they're women from the middle class, because they're women from the city. To them, it's more important to prevent the mass from getting into positions of power. And so that's my analysis. It's a class hatred and it's a racial hatred. And if women are hurt in the process, then people, they don't care. Quite frankly. And really, I think the solution is that we need we need to increase political education. I think that we can't just give up on city dwellers. A lot of city dwellers are not middle class, and they should be voting for socialist candidates. And so we need to increase that political education to get across the message that just because you're from the city, it doesn't mean that you're better than anyone else, or that you're better than people from the countryside. We need to have an anti-racist, anti-colonialist and feminist education, and a popular education that we need. In Bolivia, it's been said again and again and again that there needs to be political education. And then the second thing is the problem with the media. A lot of people simply did not know about these accusations because it wasn't in the press. It was only independent press outlets such as La Resistencia Bolivia that were printing these accusations, and that is another problem that there is within Bolivia.
Thank you. Another question? Oh, from Jorge.
Sí, yo tengo una pregunta, la hago en inglés, me imagino, ¿no?
Sí, los dos si quieres.
El problema de las elecciones, me parece que es más que una cuestión de raza o de educación o cualquier otra cosa. Me parece a mí que también es porque la democracia representativa no representa a la gente. Es la democracia participativa la que puede hacerlo. Entonces, la gente, que es la base, son los que gobiernan y no sus representantes que pertenecen a partidos que a su vez son partidos que dependen de compañías y de fuentes de dinero para sus campañas electorales. El sistema electoral en todo lo que llaman democracia representativa es demasiado caro para la mayor parte de la gente, así que es muy raro que salga uno del mismo pueblo y menos una mujer del mismo pueblo para gobernar. Y si llega como representa dentro de un partido, tiene que seguir lo que dice el partido, y eso no necesariamente va a ser lo que dice su gente de su pueblo, mucho menos del pueblo en general. A mí me parece que el problema de la elección de gente que no merece ser elegida es el sistema electoral, el sistema político capitalista, o aún en otros como socialistas, si sigue siendo representativo y no participativo como lo es en Cuba y en Venezuela. Así que la pregunta es entonces una reflexión de las compañeras sobre el sistema electoral, en particular de las bolivianas. Porque yo creo que en Bolivia también las elecciones son muy diferentes a lo que habría en Inglaterra o Canadá o Ecuador o Perú.
Gracias, Jorge.
¿Se puede hablar ya en español? ¿Todos hablan español?
No.
Sí.
No.
Todos.
No, no todos.
Okay.
Let's
Okay. Okay, I'm sorry, Jorge, but I think the in regards of democracy, in regards to Bolivia and this country, my perception, believing in this country and Bolivia, I think there is more democracy in Bolivia than in this country. In the UK, the government is elected with a very small percentage of the population. I think 30% of the population voted for the government here, compared to Bolivia, that you need the participation is over 90%. So and in Bolivia, you don't need to have money to win the election. So I mean, what happened in Bolivia with the social movements and the creation of MAS, IPCP, and so on, is to recapture power. So we are not in the same situation where in the past, you know, it was a capitalist business enterprise. No, in this case, it's not like that. But the reason these elections were lost was because in the state, in the way that the country is organized, we have cities. In the city, unfortunately, there is a great percentage of racism. This is because in the schools, the moment you go to school and you're indigenous, like myself, I am Aymara. My mother was Aymara. But because I was born in the city, they tell me, you're not Aymara anymore. You're Bolivian. So forget about that. And everything that is Aymara is put down, and they make fun of you, and they try to humiliate you and bully you, to the point, and it's not from one place, it's from your family, the church, and the state. It was like that when I grew up, to the point that you have self-hatred. So this is what colonization does. The colonization creates a self-hatred. So many people in Bolivia, especially the people that live in the city, they are indigenous, but they hate themselves, and they're willing to serve United States or multinationals multinationals. So they don't care about their own country, they don't care about their own people, they care about money and multinationals. And many people identify with that. That is very sad, but that's the reality. And I've discussed with these people, I met people like that in London, Bolivian people that feel and behave like that. I met also African people that behave exactly the same way, and English people that are prepared to vote against their own interests in this country. Like, for instance, when we voted against Jeremy Corbyn, and people voted to get out of the European Union. Yeah, so there are this type of ideology. So, but Bolivia is in a very peculiar situation. I think it's in a very good situation because the majority of the people in Bolivia, and the majority who live in the countryside, who don't live in the cities, they have become aware of their power, and they are actually bringing this change. Yeah, so this is why at the moment we're in a very, so it's not laws, not all laws. Some authorities were elected and they won, but some are have fallen in the right-wing hands. I think it's okay because it's a small percentage, but you know, we will fight, we will continue fighting.
Thank you. Thank you. Do you have another question?
Gracias, compañero.
Gracias.
Tomo la palabra. Sí, yo creo que voy a tratar, bueno, después voy a tratar de traducirlo al inglés un poco. Yo creo que en Bolivia hay un serio problema actualmente que tiene que ver mucho con los medios de comunicación. Desgraciadamente, las ciudades han sido encapsuladas literalmente por los medios de comunicación derechistas, ¿no? Asociadas a pocas familias que son capitalistas o neoliberalistas, o se definen a sí mismos como pro Estados Unidos, ¿no? Que no quieren saber nada de la parte étnica de Bolivia o de su origen indígena o de las naciones que hay en Bolivia. Ellos controlan el monopolio de los medios de comunicación de una manera muy eficaz y muy fuerte, y no permiten que en las ciudades entren otras voces alternativas, como las redes que estamos haciendo a nivel internacional por Internet. Entonces, ellos son los que proveen toda la información o ellos dan la forma a la realidad. Y una de sus formas, uno de los objetivos de esto es justamente incitar a un racismo muy fuerte, ¿no? Autoinducido. La gente termina siendo racista contra su misma gente. Y siempre tomo el caso por ejemplo, en Estados Unidos. ¿Qué pasaría si a la gente de origen africano, gente de color que le llaman, se vuelva racista hacia la gente de color o hacia a la gente afrodescendiente? Y en Bolivia se ve ese fenómeno. El indígena, de origen indígena, tiene un racismo hacia la gente indígena, ¿no? Que es muy peculiar. Pero yo creo que es un tema más de más media y de comunicaciones, de cómo se ha estructurado el poder mediático en Bolivia. So I'm going to try to translate that what I just said. I believe that in Bolivia there is a problem, a huge problem with mass media, with all these communication systems installed in the cities, the big cities, because they are owned by few families, normally extreme right families belonging to the extreme right wing, and they own all these mass media corporations, and they are able to transmit all these racism, for example, especially, they are able to transmit all this racism and to produce a kind of thinking, a way of thinking being against themselves. And I was thinking as an example, talking about USA, for example, how it would happen if people that have some Afro ascendant, so I mean people with Afro descendancy, so they became suddenly racist against people that are Afro descendants too. And this is a phenomenon that we can see in Bolivia, that people are racist against themselves. Sadly, in all these latest events after the coup d'etat, we've seen how these mass media have reacted, how they have somehow shaped the public opinion against indigenous people, against different kind of people. For them, it was just a behavior. They were just conducting the behavior of many people in the cities. This is, I believe, a big problem. There was no space for other kind of voices. There was no space for people like us that we are trying to send a message or to give a notion of reality. We want to see how reality is going on, and we are not able because all these cities are literally shielded by all these extreme right mass media. That's what I wanted to tell you.
Thank you, Gustavo. Two more questions, and then we have to wrap up. Any more questions? Roman.
Yeah, I was wondering. I mean, I think it's maybe like safe to say that in the last few years we've sort of seen, at least like in North America, a little bit more of a focus on women's issues, but often from like sort of a perspective that I think like really privileges like upper class and sort of like elite women in a certain way to the detriment of more working class like women. And I was wondering what some actual like very practical strategies that we could learn from our comrades in South America in the women's movement to actually push sort of past that or to think of you know women's issues as being going just beyond sort of like the way it's framed in North America a lot of times as just being issues around like the workplace, for example.
Who want to answer that?
The workplace is a good place to start because in the workplace is where we know each other and we can trust each other. And it's good because in my case, you know, I am a trade unionist and I was a union rep in my work. And then afterwards, I felt I was being bullied, and it was my trade union comrades that came to help me, that came and protected me. If it wasn't for them, because I think if you're isolated, they can succeed. So it's important to be able to work together. I think I was lucky because I grew up with my brother, and I fought all my life. I always fought to be able to do the things that my brother was doing. He's a bit older than me, and we used to do the same sports and do the same things. I always competed with my brother, and my brother says he's glad that he had a sister, because that grounded him, and he made him respect women. And I'm glad I had a brother, because we were able to fight and grow up, learn how to communicate. And I think the great thing about Bolivia is that women very rarely leave their children. They bring up their children in their backs. I was in my mother's back, and I put also my children in my back, because we have this close relationship, between mother and children. And I think that is very important, because women, Bolivian women, especially indigenous Bolivian women, are fighters, are fighters. They never feel pity for themselves. Other people might feel pity, but they don't feel pity for themselves. They get up early and they work together alongside men, and they gain the respect of men. And I think that's the way forward, is that when we work together. The MAS party, MAS IPCP, was founded by the Cocalero Trade Union Federation of Chapare, but also by the Bartolinas, the Confederation of Peasant Women in Cochabamba. And the woman that led the rewriting of the Constitution was Silvia Lazarte, a Bartolina, an indigenous woman. So these women, they do the three jobs. So they work at work, they look after the children, and they do the trade union work. They do all that. And that's what we need to do. We need to work together, and we cannot just focus on one group, because I have a brother, I have my son, I have my husband. We need to work together, men and women, and we need to avoid only focusing on one issue, because when women are being attacked, when this feminist side, if we say only women are suffering, no, we all suffering. So men have to come and get involved and help us to end femicide or misogyny. Misogyny doesn't help men. It goes against men. Misogyny has to be ended by, like racism divides us. Racism doesn't benefit white men. It goes against white, it weakens white men. So misogyny and racism are illnesses that we have to put down together. We have to work. The workplace is a very good place, but everywhere else as well, let's do it together.
Thank you. Mayra, I'm sorry, Mayra, but I didn't see the hand. Mayra, have a question or want to say something? Mayra, ¿puedes hablar?
Yeah, sure. I really, what I wanted to add all these conversations, we were talking about the way actually races, and races, to be honest, is really across Latin America, across Africa, and across the world, because it's not just a pandemic, which we will say is a pandemic that we suffer across the world, and we do absolutely nothing when this type of issues actually affect millions, let's say billions of women across the world. But one of the things that always it does concern me quite a lot, and I do tend to fight quite a lot about this structure, a system that exists in the world, that, like the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, who actually give money, borrow money to all these corrupt governments. But at the same time, these superstructures that exist international are actually the guilty ones who actually spread all this type of abuses, because by then encourage governments, and no encouragement but obliging governments to create economic policies or austerity because they loan money. I think that is a totally wrong, and it's something for all of us to come together and really to push the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank to stop promoting austerity across the world. And also, they have to advocate policies that not only advance gender equality, but also to allow governments to fulfill human rights that has been actually signed in 1948 and perhaps then advanced in 1968. And also we have something else to deal and to actually progress as well about the sustainable development goal that has been signed by in 2015 that we need to comply by 2030. And I think we have a lot of fights to do. And I really very happy that we have joined here together. But at the same time, I would like to beg to every single one of you that we need to join together. We need to work together as a unity and as a mass, obliging all these governments, all these abuse governments, and all this supranational structure to stop abusing people, you know, because this is a fight for all of us. That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I think it's time to wrap up, and I would like Brianna, Quintana, and Alison, they haven't said much. I want them to hear more about them before we go. Brianna and Alison.
Hi. Well, Mari, I think that everything that I have to speak about Cuba, I already said. For me, it's a pleasure being here with you today and sharing all this information and sharing of the perspective and the things that are happening in the world, in each country. It's important to know the fight that the woman has in the world. I'm really appreciate your invitation for this webinar. Thank you so much, and congratulations again for all of us in our day. The fight continues.
Thank you, Brianna. Alison.
Yeah, thank you to Mary Carmen for hosting this today. It's very difficult to organize people across many countries and time zones. And so thank you to Mary Carmen and the whole team for putting this together, and for the invitation to myself and the Fire This Time movement for social justice to be involved. I think we have to understand very clearly that every country around the world, women's rights continue to be a struggle, including here in Canada. And for us, that starts with recognizing the struggle of Indigenous women, women of color especially, but also all women in Canada continue to face domestic violence, difficulties with access to abortion, even though it's supposedly legal, and many other important struggles. So the fight against imperialism, against war, and for women's rights are really all connected. And so I look forward to working together with all of you, and I've really learned a lot today. So thank you.
Thank you, Alison. Thank you, everybody.
Mari Carmen.
Yes, Betty.
Sí, me gustaría decir, bueno, despedirme y primeramente felicitar a todos y muy agradecida de haberme invitado. Quería proponer ya algo que estamos madurando esta idea con varias personas, activistas, internacionalistas, e incluso tengo entendido que también se te ha participado de esta idea de unir fuerzas en la solidaridad internacional entre todas las organizaciones que nos estamos encontrando en el camino. porque solo con la solidaridad internacional vamos a ir dando fuerzas a nuestros colectivos, a nuestras organizaciones en cada país, para unirnos en una sola lucha contra el neoliberalismo que nos está acabando con la humanidad y el planeta, contra el capitalismo y el imperialismo. Y sería buena idea de seguir tejiendo esos lazos de unidad a nivel internacional. Queda abierta esa propuesta para todos. Y agradeceré que traduzcan lo que acabo de decir, y muchas gracias, cariños.
Gustavo, he did the translation on the chat. And thank you, Betty. Okay, I think it's time to, no more questions. I think it's time to wrap up, and thank you all the speakers, especially many thank you to the Cuban embassy, because Cuba is our example. It's been for many, many years our example. And we are supporting Cuba, because supporting Cuba and supporting Venezuela is supporting the Latino America or the Las Americas. Thank you so much, and thank you, Alison. Thank you, Amancay. Thank you, Catherine. Thank you, everybody, for being here in ALBA Social Movements Canada and Siglo XXI, Re-Pensando Bolivia. Are very grateful that you were with us tonight, and hope we will see you sometime soon. Vivan las mujeres.
Que viva.
Viva.
Gracias.
Gracias. Good night.
Gracias. Buenas noches.
Viva y gracias.
Good night.
Bye. Thank you.
María del Carmen.
Yes, my dear.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much.
Yo también. Nos
Gracias un montón.
Bye.
pronto.
Hasta pronto. Te queremos. Mi amor.
Edmonton, Canadá.